Hello everyone and welcome back to Infraspace. In today's episode I'm going to start the terraforming process, but before we do that I'm going to take on another huge project and increase our population. I'm basically going to try to, now we have 6,140 available people. We're only using 4,200 of them. I'm going to take that 6,000 number up to close to 11,000. In order to do that, we're going to have to increase the size of every industry we've done so far, basically. So what I'll do is I will show you a before and after on each industry and explain the changes I'm going to make briefly, just so that it doesn't get too tedious, because this process will probably take a while. But right now this is our house. We have, basically, to give you an idea of this, if I fill in this area here, that's 120 houses. I need to add up to 600 houses. Right now we have 340. So I need to add an additional 260 houses to get to the 600. So 120 here, and then a whole bunch, 140 or something like that down here. So right now we have 2,000 free workers, so we'll start with that. I'm going to start with the basic circuit area up here. But basically all we're going to have to do here is just double this in size. So I'm going to copy this over to here and basically address these intersections so that the outgoing goes over top the incoming, because the copper and iron is going to have to come down this road now to get up to here. So we'll just have to do a quick flyover here and go into the train station here so that the traffic doesn't cross each other, similar to what we did there. So let's get started with that. Okay, there's the circuit factory, doubled in size, created quite a bit of traffic here. Hopefully it alleviates itself once it all the circuit factories buffer up with copper and iron. But you can see there's quite a bit of traffic. But it is flowing, so that's good news. And I increased our mine sizes, so I have a whole bunch of mines down here now as well. Tons of traffic, but we'll see how that pans out. Same thing with copper. Copper's not as backed up, but it's still backed up in the center here. So anyways, next up is circuits. Microchips. Microchips, we currently have 120. I'm going to basically double this in size as well. Go up to 200 microchip factories, as well as, instead of 15 computer labs, we'll have 30 computers. That is microchips complete. Now I have 220. I have 120 in this top section and 100 down below here. Zoom in a little bit so you can see what's going on. I made sure not to cross incoming and outgoing traffic, so incoming traffic from the train station goes in this way and down the center row down here and towards the bottom of the screen. And then outgoing goes above it, and then it bridges over top here, so that there's never an intersection where incoming and outgoing meet. Seems to keep traffic flowing pretty well, so we'll keep an eye on that. We've used about 1,000 workers already, so we're at 5,300. We still have about 700 free, so I'm going to try to do neural processors next. Check the traffic here real quick. Outgoing circuit seems to get a little backed up. We might have to do some intersection management to make sure these roads are flowing, because this road right here could use a lot more traffic. But it's something to keep an eye on. We'll see if once it buffers up, if it still looks backed up like this. So next up anyways, neural processors. Let's see, there's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 of them here right now. I'll probably do 120 just to give us some room to grow. So that's what's next, and hopefully I have enough people to do this, and then we'll add to the city right after this so that we have more people. And here's neural processors. Added 2 more rows of neural processors and then supporting stuff. It seems to be working out. I added an extra row of nanotubes on this end here because we were a little short on nanotubes. But traffic seems to be working pretty good with this lane down here being the supply line for nanotubes. So carbon, sand, water, all coming in this one, and then nanotubes exiting the system on the other side. And this bottom road here being the supply road for neural processors, so nanotubes and sand. and microchips coming in from the train station. Seems to be holding its own, so we'll keep an eye on it and see. It's showing that I'm a little short on water, but I'm going to let them see if running for a little bit before I add more water. Next up we have 5,800 workers used out of the 6,100, so roughly 300 left. I think I'm going to sneak in a Good Meals factory before I expand the city, so that will be over here somewhere. I'm sure I passed it. There it is down here. So I'm going to extend this, just basically add another module on the end here. I'm a little worried this main road here is going to get backed up, but if it does, we'll rearrange it. So Good Meals next. Okay, Good Meals are done. Pretty easy, didn't use a whole lot of workers, so I still have a little over 200 workers free, so I'm going to go expand the home robots, which is super simple. It's right up here. All I have to do is add a road and throw down some robot factories, and one's super simple. Add 5 buildings in a road, not too complicated, although we are going to have to expand motors a little bit because I forgot about those. So motors are just over here. So another not too complicated one, just slap down some motor factories and some steel and carbon and water, and good to go. Okay, done with the motors. I got 140 people roughly, maybe a little more to extra that are unemployed. So it's time to add to the city, and this is still showing water, so let's throw water in here real quick. Should take care of that. Go to the city, add the homes, and that's really going to test out the systems. All the industries are going to light up delivering stuff and fire back up and test our transportation network, so let's see how that goes. Alright, so I've got the south portion of the city laid out with infrastructure, no houses yet. The east side over here, I've filled out the rest of the infrastructure as well as put in a whole bunch of houses. So they will upgrade slowly. I didn't want to put them all down at once because I didn't want to overwhelm the system, and this is our average habitat level is going to drop quite quickly, so I don't want immigration to slow down. So we'll keep an eye on it, watch these over time as they upgrade, make sure everything's capable of supplying it in the rate it needs. But finally we can move on to terraforming. Now terraforming has lots of different categories. You can click this button over here and see all the different categories we can terraform with. Basically each one adds a different stage to the terraforming process and changes the map a little bit. We're going to start with, I believe, soil fertilization. Each one has a different range. You can see in this button down here, terraforming. So like filter mesh factory, is how we make filter meshes. So dust particle filters has this range, so we'll have to dot these all along to cover. I'm going to focus on this crater here and terraform out from there. Soil fertilization has a little bit bigger. Ground acidity regulator has even bigger range. And ammonia extractor has an even bigger range. Once we unlock the magnetic field generator, there's only one of those required per map. It's a multi-stage build. But we're not going to do that until research is done, because we'll use some of the products that we're using for research. Once research is complete, we'll direct them to the magnetic field generator to build that. So let's start with fertilizer drones. They use something, and just dotting 4 of them around the city here like this to cover the crater. Something like that. So the fertilizer drone hub requires fertilizer to work, which is fertilizer is made from sulfur. So I think what we'll do is, there's a sulfur patch up here. So I think I'll sneak a road over top of these underneath the railroad tracks here. and kind of snake it through here and keep this traffic completely separate from the rest of the world. And then I'll supply some fertilizer factories right next to the drone hub, and should be good to go for that. So let's work on that.
First thing is to locate a sulfur patch. There's one not too far away up here. And just build a road from there over top of these other roads to make sure there's no intersections underneath the tracks. And somehow snake it into the crater to supply sulfur to the fertilizer factories we're about to put down. Now, each drone factory requires 5 fertilizer factories to operate. I try to keep them a little bit away from the drone factory because I do not want the proximity bonus in this case. If it uses 5% more or 8% more fertilizer per proximity bonus, it doesn't do me any good, right? Like, it doesn't terraform any faster, it just uses more fertilizer. So I'm trying to keep the buildings away from the drone factory so that there's no bonus. Kind of a weird concept, but... And then basically draw a road into this sulfur patch here and put some mines down. Now you'll notice there's no traffic flowing when I hook up these roads, which there should be. But so then I built this overpass road that just surrounds the crater so that I can pull exit ramps off of it and supply all the terraforming buildings that will be inside this and surrounding this crater. So we'll have to come back through and power all this up as well. But basically repeating this just for each factory, doing it, making sure there's 5 fertilizer factories per drone factory. And I didn't show this on camera, but I did come back and put a district in each one so that fertilizer can only stay within each drone factory. So there's 4 different districts for these drone factories. And that way fertilizer does not get exported anywhere else. Now I realized up here that's because this was inside a district, so once I deleted this district, traffic started flowing again.
Okay, just to elaborate on these factories here, if I click on one, it takes 10 fertilizer and produces nothing. So if you get the proximity bonus and have it 108% efficient or higher, it's going to use fertilizer faster, but produce nothing faster. So there's no sense in giving it the proximity bonus because it does nothing for you. It still terraforms at the same speed, I believe. So there's that, and then I've noticed I've added homes down here to complete the 600 homes. We have roughly a little over 10,000 population right now. But I've noticed if you look right here, good meals the bar's not quite filling up. And that's consistent throughout the whole village. So some investigation there made me realize there's nothing at this train station, so this is not the holdup. But if you click on this train station, there's 1,300 good meals sitting here waiting to be delivered, so we just need to add more trains to the system so it can transport them faster. That's the advantage of this train loop system. It's easy to add more traffic. And then as well, I'm going to go through and upgrade. I've upgraded this loop already. You can see the 3 arrows means it's upgraded lightning rail track. This is just regular train track. So we're going to upgrade that as well. So I'll handle that in a second. And then the next thing I'm going to do is terraforming filter meshes. Those require a filter mesh factory, which requires nanotubes, steel, and green science. So green science requires blue science, so we're going to have to do a pretty big build for this because it uses a lot of them. I think I'm going to need like 40 blue science factories. So I'm then thinking spanning some district between these 2 areas up here and starting with making a science factory up here as the first stage of the filter mesh.
Okay, so first thing I did was just lay down a road to start the edge of the district. Start laying down some science factories to just get a feel for where I want stuff, along with a proximity bonus for the green research. Put a road down first so that the factories connect to it without having to rotate them. And of course recycling centers to make sure everything's efficient. And then we'll need some iron ore for this district, so we'll give it its own iron source up here. And I just started basically creating an entry into the district, so all incoming materials that go into here will come through this road. And basically just start copying this layout down to get a feel for how big it's going to be. I'm going to need like 34 green science factories, so. And just draw a road here for the exit to the districts so that we can supply a filter mesh factory down the road there. Upgrade these to highways, so hopefully the traffic will prioritize taking the faster roads instead of the lower speed roads, and all one-way roads to the exit of the district. And then here I'm going to start laying out the steel factory. This was not too complicated, just water, carbon, and iron. So traffic doesn't get too bad in here, so I don't have to worry too much about the flow of traffic here, so I don't have to use one-way roads too much. Put it in districts so we can control the flow of goods. As well, I'll just give it its own iron patch so it's dedicated to just the steel. I don't know really how many I'll need, so I'll just put down a whole bunch to cover it. Give it its own power source so that way we don't have to worry about dragging power all the way up here. And again, put this in a district as well, because that way we can control where it goes and set iron to go down to here. Alright, and here's the layout for the filter mesh factory. The filter mesh factories are down here, requiring green science, nanotubes, and steel. So nanotubes are right here, doing the same principles that I did before, which is this supply line is for nanotubes, so it has water, carbon, and sand directed to it. And then it's forced to go down this way to the nanotube factories, and the nanotubes exit the system on the other side. You can see here the carbon processors. This road is not attached right down here in the bottom right corner, so the carbon has to go this way to get to the nanotubes. Steel factory, nothing too exciting there. Traffic's quite backed up because those systems are trying to buffer up right now. But water, carbon, and iron. Iron comes in from a iron patch way up north. And then green science. Currently I have 34 green science buildings. It's actually not enough to supply those 10 factories over there, but I wanted to get it flowing and make sure everything was working appropriately before I make a copy of this factory. So again, this is also way backed up. It'll hopefully fix itself once the factories over there, the filter mesh factories, buffer up. And then circuits are coming in via this train station over here. One-way road, of course, coming out of the station, so it can supply circuits to this factory over here. So once those get up and running, we can put down dust particle filters. That's what requires that. Then we'll have to do some advanced filter meshes to get the next two buildings done. Okay, while we're here, we might as well put down the advanced filter mesh factory as well. It's a big one. Get a little bonus off the regular filter mesh factories. But they require neural science, regular filter meshes, and iridium ore. So iridium ore is coming from way over there, this volcano over there. And then neural science is coming just via the train loop, which I've recently expanded over here. As well, I had to expand the circuit area and the microchip area to cover all this stuff we're doing. But so they'll get to work on that. Iridium ore will take a while to get there because it's a ways away. You can see our town is fully maxed out. Everything's being supplied at a decent rate, so that's good. So magnetic field generator, we're going to start backwards. Excuse me.
and start with the magnetic field generator. You only need one of these per map. It's pretty huge. I'm going to put it in the center of the crater as a little landmark. There we go there. And then the ammonia extractor, we'll put this off to the side here. And the groundwater thing, all these have pretty huge range, so it covers the crater with one of them. There we go, and then the last building to put down is the dust particle filters. So I think I'll dot these around the something like this, just to cover the crater. The road is in. It just comes from this train station here. It's going to have to cut through the city for now, since this is kind of a temporary thing anyway. And then it just comes down through here and goes up to the magnetic field generator. Now, the first stage of the magnetic field generator requires these ingredients: steel, circuits, and electronics, quite a bit of them. So electronics we already have being manufactured on the train loop. I'll have to add concrete and steel, just a temporary factory, to get us past this requirement. So they'll start delivering stuff down to here. And as well as I hooked up just one of these buildings so we can see, like right now the fertilizer drones are hooked up, and it just basically changed the color of this just a little bit. Nothing much really. So we're going to see what this one does. This is the ammonia extractor. So this one should be coming online shortly. And we'll see what that does. And then we'll see what the next stage of magnetic field generator is. Alright, so the ammonia extractor here is working. There's not really a whole lot of change. It just changed the color again slightly. For the amount of work these things are, it sure doesn't change the world a lot, so kind of disappointing. But anyway, I've also added, you can see materials are being delivered here: concrete, steel, electronics or circuits. I've added a small concrete build right here delivering to this train station, and a small steel build delivering to this train station. So that's how the parts are getting down to this thing, to the crater. Next up, we're going to hook up this ground acidity regulator and see what that does. Alright, so we're still waiting on the first stage of this magnetic field generator. Materials are being delivered, as you can see. So I know since building extra factories, there's plenty of materials coming in. It's just a matter of waiting it out at this point. The ground acidity regulator is up and running, and it actually started to form some cactuses on the, I guess I should say cacti, on the crater, so that's pretty cool. And the grass has turned kind of a ugly green color, as well as grass has started to form over here. So we're starting to see some changes. So last thing to hook up, it would be these dust particle filters, so I'll get on that real quick while we're still waiting on stage one.
So filters are relatively simple. All I gotta do is drag a road down to them, change it over to a regular road so it connects, add a recycling center to it, and give it its own power source, and it's good to go.
Alright, it's been a good hour and a half, and we're still waiting on concrete here. Steel and electronics are done, but we still have 4,000 concrete to go. So in the meantime, some trees have started growing. Kind of fun. And then I've been expanding the circuit factory up here, creating all sorts of traffic. And then I think we should work on the spaceship to increase some of our efficiencies, because we haven't done that in a while, in a long time. So spaceship, these FTL ones, they all increase building efficiency by 5% each. So we're just going to start with the top one here. Radiation cores were being used for science, no longer doing science, so let's hit repair. And I connected it by a pipe, but I think there's a bug in it where you can't do methane to the spaceship by pipe. Because I'll show you it's hooked up by pipe. So it's definitely hooked up by pipe, but there's no methane flowing to the building, so we'll have to deliver it by truck.
So let's get methane hooked up by truck. We'll start with a cargo gondola up top here to transport methane up to the top of the riverbed. Let's put down a road here, connect it up to the cargo gondola, and put in a whole bunch of methane producers. Who knows how many, but we'll just put 5 or 6 to start with, along with its own power source, so we don't have to worry about that. Then we'll plop a train station down in here and start running the rail up to the other station up the south of the town here. Get it hooked up to the correct terminal on the train station so that we can have it flow in the right direction. One thing to note is that with pipes, if there's pipes hooked up to a building, traffic will not try to deliver to it. So if you have pipes hooked up to a building, you need to delete the pipes for it to recognize that it needs to be transported by train or truck. So get this hooked up the rest of the way to the train station, hook this up to the cargo gondola, and we should have methane being delivered up to the city after we finish creating this train line. So that should be methane delivered to the spaceship construction facility. Okay, stage 1 is finally complete. The magnetic field generator, we're on to stage 2, which requires now 10,000 steel and 500 nanotubes. Nanotubes will be pretty easy to get down here, but steel is going to take some time. So in the meantime, while that's been processing, I've been working on expanding our city. So down to the south of the city here, I filled in the rest of the district, which required expanding quite a few industries up north here. So like I had to expand our neural processors to pretty much the maximum size I could get it to. I'll have to create another district if we need more of these. As well as I filled out the circuit factory and the microchip factory. So that's going to do it for this episode. Next episode we'll continue working on the field generator. Thanks for watching.